Welcome back to Nolan Financial Radio. My name is Tara Nolan from Nolan Financial, and I'm so glad you're here today. We are going to be talking about New Year's resolutions through a little bit of a different lens, but we'll get to that in a minute. If you're new to the show, I just want to let you know that you can give Chris and I a call at any point at 719-210-4242. If you have a question about what we've talked about in the show that we didn't cover, so you can always give us a call at 719-210-4242. And I would also encourage you to visit our website at www.nolanfinancialpartners.com. And here's why. On our website, we have all the radio shows recorded, and we do lots of educational topics from Social Security, IRAs, Medicare, 401ks, TSPs, kind of you name it, we've covered it as a topic. And financial success starts with being able to ask the right questions, because there's no lack of information, but it's being able to ask the right questions. Right. So I would just say either give us a call at 719-210-4242 and visit the website, www.taraenolan.com, so that you can start getting yourself set up for that financial success by being able to ask the right questions. But before we jump into the show today, let me say hello to my amazing co-host, Tony Shore. Tony, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing great. I always, this topic that you've got for us today, New Year's resolutions for folks. I always cringe a bit because I know you're going to ask me to stop eating pizza, or at least cut down. So that's on the list every single year. But I know we're mainly focusing on finance and retirees, but there are a lot of changes coming up in the next year, and we're hoping for some change in the next year. We don't want the same thing we've experienced the last 2 years, at least for most of us, with COVID and the economy. So we do need to be wary, though, and make sure we're prepared. So I think this is going to be a good discussion, Tara. I'm excited about it. But first, how have you been? Are the horses, you have horses, how are they making it through the winter?
Oh gosh, Tony, they are so fat.
They always get fat. They get fat during the winter, don't they? They store stuff up and they don't get as much exercise. Hey, wait, is that me or the horses we're talking about?
I'm saying PHAT, where they're all fat.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So, yeah, even the boys, they all look like they're about to have a baby. And Tony, we've been traveling a lot this year. So when we travel, we go get one of those gigantic hay bales and put them out. So that way our neighbor who takes care of the horses, she doesn't have to carry hay every day. But What they do, Tony, is they end up picking through it and they toss it around. They pick out the morsels that they like and they make this huge bed.
Oh, that's funny.
And I'm like, that's an expensive bed, but you know what? They don't colic, and so it's worth it at the end.
Well, they're fat and happy. That's what counts. Your horses are well fed. That's good. But yeah, they do. They pick through that big bale and they pick out the tasty bits, and then the rest is scattered around. But you still had to pay big bucks for that entire bale. So
yeah,
that's funny. And then they just spread it around and lie on it, right?
Oh yeah. They're kind of like the cat. If you have a cat or a dog and you give them food, they always want fresh.
Oh yeah,
that's been in the bowl for a couple hours. I want more. I want
fresh. Especially cats. Yeah, they're really bad about that.
Like the food, the dry food in the bag is fresher than what they have in their bowl.
Somehow, miraculously, it is. I don't know how they do that, but they're like, nope, that's been in my bowl too long. I'm not eating that. Yeah, that's funny.
It's funny. So Chris and I have been off to a big year, and Tony, I think you've already been off and had an amazing trip to kick off the year as well.
Yeah, I've had a great year so far. 2022 is going much better than last year, and just things with the family and travel, it's been good. But this is interesting. We talk, usually in January we do talk about what we're going to be doing for the rest of the year and resolutions that people need to have. And I know you're going to focus on some financial and some resolutions for retirees because this is something you help your clients with. And I know you've dealt with this a lot.
We're going to do it, Tony. And I love that you gave that, but we're going to flip it on its head like I like to do and look at it through a different lens. And I think you already touched on it. You said, I'm going to tell you you can't have any more pizza. Because aren't we so used to those kind of resolutions?
Yeah.
I'm going to lose 20 pounds. I'm going to go to the gym every day, or I'm going to And we make this list of things that we know are going to really be a struggle for us to do.
Yep.
And then we just end up beating ourselves up for it.
Yeah.
So do you end up coming about the middle of February? Do you actually usually feel good about any of your resolutions?
No,
Usually,
only the ones I've managed to stick with. If
right.
I've stuck with them for
So you
that
usually
long.
end up feeling kind of crappy, and you're like, okay, I
Yeah.
started out the new year and I've already a
Yeah,
failure
true.
because I didn't meet my goals.
Right.
So I would flip it on its head. And we talk about this, but abundance is a lot of things. Wealth is one of them. But
Yep.
abundance, I mean, there's a lot of areas of your life, and you've seen multifaceted things that talk about what are you doing for your mental health, your physical health, your spiritual health, your financial health. There's, are you having career satisfaction? So abundance is kind of you need to have that whole person concept, because say you're making a bunch of money, but your marriage is falling apart, or you're having trouble finding someone to date. Are you happy?
Yeah. Are you truly happy then? That's the
Or
question.
what about, you're making a bunch of money, but you've gotten sick, or you've got a family member that's sick. Then you're not happy. But what if you flip it on its head? What if you're just, you're nailing your job, and you're working out every day, but your paycheck just is not really big enough to support what you want to do? Are you happy in that situation?
Yeah, that's tough.
So it's really got to be balanced. So I wanted, what I've decided this year for my New Year's resolution is it's not going to lead with all these, I call it a list of should do's. I should lose 20 pounds. I should do this. I'm going to lead my New Year's resolution, overriding big picture, is I'm going to make decisions that make me feel good. And so knowing that all of these different things, like your health, how much money you're making, how strong you are, how good are your relationships with your family, knowing that all those things are what make you feel good. We're obviously, Tony, we're a financial show. So we're going to talk about what are the things that you can do in terms of your money that are going to make you feel good.
Yeah. There you go. And I think I'm glad we're going to talk about that, because people need to, I think doing that is a great way to look at it. And you're always good, Tara, about turning things on their heads and kind of coming at it at a different angle that you typically don't hear about. So this is going to be good. What's the first way? Obviously, we need to do things with our finances that are going to help us in the new year feel good about ourselves and not have to worry, right? And I imagine one of those is planning. Having a plan is the first step, right?
It's going to be, and as we get into it, Tony, I just want everyone listening to just kind of ask the question in their head, what are some things I could do with my money that would make me feel really good? Just kind of have that thought in the back of your head. Like, what are some things that I've heard that other people are doing? And also think about what are you doing that does make you happy? Because you're probably already doing some things that make you happy. But so let's think about this first one. This is a normal one. How does having debt make you feel?
Not good.
It's not great, right? It's kind of like that anchor, because whatever it is that you spent the money on, like that enjoyment's already passed, but now you still have this anchor that you're dragging around. So how would that make you feel that you create a plan, a systematic, purposeful plan to just pay off that debt? So you put the plan in play and then you just let it go. How would that feel?
Wow. Well, yeah. And just getting that burden, debt is a burden, and that's something that can keep us up at night. So if you can eliminate debt, that's a huge step, right, to being happy.
It's a huge step. And the key is that you just make an intentional plan to attack it. So, if you have a mountain of debt, that didn't happen overnight. So you're not going to get rid of it overnight. So, but you just need to make a plan of positive steps that that you're going to pay it off, or you've got little things that you're going to do every week or every month. And you just put that plan in play and let it go. So the first thing is, if you have debt, let's talk about that and make that a plan.
Yeah. Now, I mean, a strategy for credit cards or your mortgage, right?
Exactly. Now, I would ask this question is, when, Tony, and I'll put you on the spot, when was the last time you actually kind of checked on kind of your bundled package of what you're paying for car insurance and home insurance?
Car insurance, it's been a while, honestly. I haven't, we haven't looked at that or thought about that in a while. Home insurance, we did just change the end of last year. We finally, after years and years of just letting it go, realized we were paying, I would say, we cut it in half by finally looking at it and adjusting it. We cut our house insurance in half.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And that's exactly the story, is looking at it. So the way car insurance and home insurance, because there's a lot of companies out there that do that. And so they're always kind of competing with each other. So every year it's always good to just take a look and see, because you want to make sure, like for your house, you want to make sure, here's another thing too. You want to make sure you have replacement cost, so that like if your house, God forbid, were to burn down, you have enough money to actually replace the house, not just pay off the note. Like if it's just market value, you may not be able to rebuild the house. And, with your car insurance, you want to make sure you have enough coverage. But, the biggest example, Tony, is if you have, let's say you get in a car wreck and you get like a fender bender in the parking lot, and it's going to cost about $600 to fix. Are you going to file a claim with your insurance company?
No.
Right? Why not?
Well, because your insurance will go up, and over time it'll add up to more than that.
Yeah, your insurance will go up. It's just a hassle. So why would you ever have a deductible that's like $200 or $500 when you're not going to use it?
Right.
And we all do it.
That's a great. Yep.
And so there's just little things. It's like a little thing you can do that doesn't change your quality of life or what things are costing you, but you might find some money, go, oh, that's going to save me a couple $100 a month that I can now put towards working for me.
Yeah. I never thought of that with the deductible with auto insurance, but you're right. I mean, that's a good point.
It's called lost opportunity cost. And Tony, when I sit down with people to look at their budgets, especially when we're doing like second opinions to go through, one of the first things we do is go through every single little thing you're doing and go, where are you spending money that you don't need to spend that we can reallocate so that the money's working for you?
Yeah.
And not just leaving your world. So that's a great one.
And bundling I know that what we haven't really looked at just the car insurance, but with our house insurance, we had it with a separate company. And initially when we bought our house, we liked the company. They were associated with our bank and they gave us a great deal. But over the years, we've owned the house a long time. And over the years, they just kept raising the rates. And we never, we assumed, oh, that's a good company. They gave us a great deal to begin with.
Right.
Well, turns out that we were paying over twice as much as we should have been compared to what other companies were. And when we bundled it with our car insurance, you hear the ads, but bundling really does make a difference.
It really does, Tony. And so then the next question I'll ask our listeners to just kind of chew on for a minute is, have you ever looked at your finances holistically? Or do you kind of look at your money stovepipe? Like you've got over here is your car insurance. And then over here in this other place is your medical insurance. And then over here is your life insurance. And then over there is your 401k. And then over here is your IRA. So do you actually look at your money like holistically, like it's all your money working together? Or do you have it kind of separated out into very separate categories? And I would ask people to think about that, because that's one of the big things. And I talk about this in the book, and I call it your financial bubble, is all of the money decisions you're making can either be working together to add value, but what most people do is they look at them all independently as separate things. And you miss out on those little things, like maybe you're paying too much for your deductible for your car. And so I would just say, Tony, for anyone listening, if you realize that you're kind of looking at your money stovepiped and you're not looking at it holistically, how it works together, give Chris and I a call, 719-210-4242, or go to our website at www.nolanfinancialpartners.com and set up that discovery call. Because Tony, it is just amazing what you can find in terms of looking at your money holistically as all part of your financial bubble versus just like separate things that are not like talking together at all.
Sure. Yeah. And I like that, have some synergy with your different, all the different areas to really, they can help each other and work together. The big picture approach. You use the word holistic, but the big picture, taking a look at everything and making it work together to save money. That's a great one. And I think people do look at it. I know people do really look at it isolated, like this is for this, this is for this. But if you kind of look at the big picture, and that's what you help people do as a financial advisor, it's like the old analogy that I throw out there every now and then, Tara, and we've talked about this on the show, is what's the most important? You got a 5,000 piece puzzle. What's the most important piece? The box lid, the picture on the box lid.
Right.
That's the most important piece of the puzzle, because if you got 1,000 or more pieces and you don't know what the final picture is going to look like, good luck. I mean,
Right.
it's going to be really, really hard, if not impossible, to put that together. And that's what you provide, is that big picture view to help people see that big picture of what it needs to look like. And I just think that ties in nicely to that. So what's another thing that we need to do? I mean, obviously...
Well, I was going to just, that was a perfect lead in, Tony, is the reason I want people to think about things in the big picture is like, let's take two scenarios. Let's say you are working, maybe you've worked for the government or for the state, and you have a nice pension, guaranteed pension coming in, and you also have some money that's invested in the market. So,
Sure.
So that scenario versus, let's say you're a business owner and you've worked for yourself. So you have probably a pretty nice nest egg, but you don't have any guaranteed pension coming in. Do you think those two different people are going to have the same goals when it comes to risk in the market?
No.
Right. And so think about, like, when you're looking at what you do, what is your investment strategy today? And does your investment strategy make sense for you and what you're doing? Or is the investment strategy you have, is it actually just something you heard about on TV or something you talked to a friend about and maybe doesn't even apply to you? So I would say one of your resolutions should be to think about, what is your investment strategy and is it tied to the reality of your life? Like, have you connected those dots?
Yeah. Well, and you've got to review your financial strategy and have one and work with a financial services professional like yourself, because you need that second opinion and you need that balance. And some people think balance is just, I've got it in high risk stock and low risk stock. Well, it's all at risk. That's not really balance. You need to have your money actively managed, and you have to look at your time horizon. You've talked about that a lot. I've learned that from you, Tara, that time horizon is important for an older person nearing retirement or in retirement. The places and the way they put their money is going to be a lot different than somebody who's, say, a 30 or 40, right?
And I'm laughing, Tony, because my inner contrarian kicked in when you said, well, you have to do this. I'm like, well, you don't have to do anything.
Well, that's true. That's true. I know. I shouldn't
it's fine.
speak in absolutes around you. Yeah.
My inner contrarian just kicks up. But here's my goal for people. And if you're listening to the show, is it's your money. You make any decision you want. I just want you to make informed decisions, because I just don't want someone to get 20 years down the road and go, if I had only known, I would have made different choices.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing. The next thing, Tony, that I really wanted to talk about is, this is a really good time of year to think about your legacy planning.
Oh, yeah.
And for people listening, some people go, legacy planning, that's like for the Rockefellers and for the Kardashians. I don't have any money.
Yeah, well, we all have a legacy, whether it's $10 and a box full of photos, or if it's $100 million. But your legacy includes more than money, doesn't it?
It does, but here's the thing, Tony, is I have this. It just happens when I meet with clients. A lot of times, we're always afraid. You don't know the first time you sit down to plan how much you have, and most people are like, my kids are going to have to fend for themselves, and I just need to have enough. And once we start going through strategies and people start understanding, like, where your money lives changes how it grows and how you put things together, and they go, oh, I can make sure I have enough money and I can still leave something for my kids, or I can still donate to my charity. Tony, almost down to the person, people are like, I want to do that. And it's usually the only time people go in their heads, oh, I'm not leaving a legacy, is because you're in that place of fear.
Yeah.
And once you start to go,
or you just don't understand how it can work. And so that's where you come in. And I think that's really important. Legacy planning is so huge. It's a big part of retirement planning.
It really is. And it's always interesting, because if you've never had any professional help, you just don't know that it's possible. Because the thing with money is, there's a lot of eaches and a lot of things that you have to know. And that's why, Tony, I work with a CPA that specializes in real estate, because I don't want to keep up on all the real estate law. And so I let my CPA keep me smart on that. And then I take care of the money stuff when it comes to retirement planning. It's never a question of, can I do it? Of course you could, but how much time do you want to donate? And here's the thing, Tony, are you actually going to do the work?
Yeah, there you go.
Because how many times you're like, I'll take care of that myself, and then you just never get around to it.
Yeah, and that's, well, with legacy planning, this is one of the big things people put off, because it involves, thinking about your passing or your spouse's passing, or what you're going to leave to your children. And a lot of people don't like having those conversations, or they put it off thinking, I'll get to that, and you see celebrities do that all the time, like, Prince or Aretha Franklin. They said, oh, they'll get to it, but they never did. And then something happens, and you don't want to leave your friends and family or in a bad situation to have to deal with all that. And so having a plan in place, working with a financial professional like yourself, who's going to bring in estate planning attorneys where needed to do those, the medical power of attorneys, and listing out what you want given where, and a will. And but legacy planning is a big part of retirement planning and financial planning, isn't it?
It is, Tony. And for people listening today, you've actually really just reminded me that if you give a call at 719-210-4242, Chris and I will do a complimentary consultation and share with you our From the Heart Journal, because this actually will walk you through all the things you need to know to get set up for legacy planning. And it's probably, Tony, it's one of the kindest things you can do for your family, is to have all of your, all those things taken care of, so that
all of your ducks in a row.
People aren't dealing with grief and trying to figure out what to do with your money, right? Because I don't like money being mingled with negative energy and negative experiences.
Right.
So with the From the Heart Journal, you can actually set that all up so that you can leave your family. It's like leaving them a gift and saying, hey, here's how I'd like you to take care of my business. And it's a great thing. So Tony, that number is 719-210-4242 to set up that complimentary appointment and get that From the Heart Journal.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great resource and tool. I've looked at it and filled it out. My wife and I have gone through it. That is a great resource, and our listeners can get that. And I know there's no charge. And also, Tara, I want to talk about, there's no charge for a consultation with you and Chris. I think that's fantastic. Now, we're talking about some New Year's resolutions, financial resolutions, and other resolutions, especially when it comes to retirement and income planning. And I know you've talked about a lot. We've talked about legacy planning. What's next?
Well, one of the things that you want to look at too is, and I see this with a lot of people, is dealing with your adult children. Finding the balance between helping them, move on to the next step without, enabling them to not move on. And
right.
I have, a lot of my clients have done pretty well for themselves. So they're in the position where they can help.
Yeah.
And it becomes very easy to kind of get into that role. And so just kind of think about what those relationships are like. And you don't want to enable somebody that they don't move out on their own, that you're just taking care of them all the time.
Yeah.
And so to start to think about some of those relationships, and, and it's good, because that's actually a way that we get to that holistic picture of looking at all the things that make you happy. And this is the relationship piece. And I think it's really important, for as much as possible, if you can separate that string that money can have.
Yeah.
Because, I've had it done. I think we've all had that experience. It's just kind of a known thing. Like, even when you go out to eat, if you go out to eat and someone pays, you owe them a thank you, or you just feel a little obligated.
Yep.
And so there's always that string attached. So I'm just encouraged to think about your relationships that you have with your family and friends, and say, what strings do I have attached to money? And, if I'm going to give money, like, just give it and it's gone, and give that with gratitude. But think about, like, what kind of strings might exist. And they kind of go both ways.
Yeah. But it goes both ways. That's true.
But that's another thing to think about, because our overall question is, what are things I can do that make me feel happy?
Yes, especially in 2022. This is the year to do that, right, Tara? What are things we can do this year to make ourselves happier? And a lot of people, for a lot of folks, that is tied to and some others, it might be something else. And we always talk about diet and exercise this time of year and getting on the right track, but really, what are you going to do that's going to make you happy? And that's a good way to motivate yourself, is that happiness, that peace of mind. And especially when it comes to financial planning, that's what you're giving yourself, is peace of mind. And I know that makes me happy. That's for sure.
Right. And Tony, let me just throw out an easy one. So anyone who's listening, if you're working, make sure you're taking advantage of your matching with your 401k or
Oh,
your
yeah.
retirement plan at work. I can't foot stomp that enough. So that's an easy one.
Yep.
Make sure you're taking care of your matching.
Yep. That'll make you happier because it's free money. Make sure that you're putting in the max to your 401k to get the max match. In other words, put in at least as much to get the maximum match that your company offers. And that's one thing to get taken care of right away this year. Make sure that's set in stone, and make sure you're putting enough in there. I think that's big. That's a big thing. Knowing that that's taken care of, that should make you happier.
Absolutely. And then here's another real easy one to do, Tony, is if you don't have it already, just set up your bank account so that automatically 10%, it could be 5% if that's more comfortable, but 10% or 5% of your money automatically moves to savings until you have that emergency fund that you know that you need to have. Just set that up so it's on autopilot. And then that's going to make you happy, because that's your money is kind of doing a job for you. You set it up once and you put it on automatic pilot.
Awesome. Well, that's another great tip. Well, we're almost out of time for the show today, Tara. But before you roll the end credits there and our outro, let our listeners know once again how they can set up that complimentary consultation.
Sure, Tony. So to set up that complimentary discovery call 719-210-4242. And you can also book it right on my website at www.nolanfinancialpartners.com. But the number is 719-210-4242. And Tony, we do in-person and virtual. We've gotten really good at virtual calls. We do them all the time now.
All right. Wow, that's great. And that's good to know. Well, that does it for today's episode of Nolan Financial Radio with our host, Tara Nolan.
Join us again for another episode of Nolan Financial Radio. Take care, and we'll talk with you next time.